Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Brother's Son, Season 1, Episode 7. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, when we were starting off in Taipei, I was kind of confused. I was like, are we still following Mother-Son? I'd assumed like she would have been on her way back to the States. But then we start going all these different people who are the different ghosts. I didn't kind of get a picture of what was going on until I saw the name Frank Ma. I was like, wait, that's one of the people. I didn't catch the other names, but I definitely distinctly remember the name Frank Ma being one of the names crossed off our list. So I was like, wait, these are the people that she went to go visit while she was, which is, once again, there's layers to that, because immediately you're like, wait, these are the people she went to go visit. That's why I was thinking it was weird. Like, I didn't say anything last episode, but I was like, it is kind of weird you're able to just kind of be in Taipei. Like, if word got out from any of the ghosts, any of the other heads of the triads, you'd be done, because you're a danger to all of them. But once, it's like, because the whole thing about her is she kept like Big Son and the Jade Dragons safe because she was out of the picture. She was so far out of anyone's reach, no one knew where she was, so it kept her hidden. But it's like, if they get weird of you being in Taipei, just like, the boxers, like now that Bruce knows Bruce is safe from the boxers, now that he's a Rolodex, he's safe from the boxers, but not the other heads of the triads, the other ghosts. So I was like, that's what kind of was in my head last episode, but I didn't think about it too much. But yeah, this episode I was like, wait, she went to go visit each and every one of them, what's going on? And then we find out, like, all right, the boxers are ready to strike, but all of the ghosts are ready. They were prepared. And even Bruce is like, wait, how did they know about it? And his mom was like, it doesn't matter. We find out later on, it does matter, because she orchestrated everything. She specifically told Bruce, she made him memorize the list because she needed him. She knew, like, oh, I knew that you would spill the beans. It doesn't matter for whether the justification may have been, because it shows the difference. Like, she wasn't going to let anything get in the way of her. If push came to shove, was she willing to sacrifice her own sons? She threatened him the moment, like, Bruce got brought up in the conversation, but she was willing to let Blood Boots die. But so we never really got to the conversation of, if it really came down to it, would she have kept her silence for the sake of her children? We'll never know, because that was kind of a moot point. Still could potentially pop up later on, but we'll kind of have to wait on and see on that discussion as well. But the timing is interesting. The moment she had made sure that Bruce had the list memorized, she immediately went back to Taipei. So I guess that should have been like, that was kind of interesting timing. I mean, to be fair, she's kind of always making moves without telling anyone what she's doing, because it's like, right, I'm the big picture person. I'm the one that's got all the clues. The less people know about my plan, the more, like, less likely people are going to impede it. But it's kind of sad, because her justification is like, oh, you're not weak, you're good. But it's still the thing of, you used your son. You made sure he memorized this because you knew, like, you would use it to your advantage. Oh, let the boxers come after the heads after Bruce spills the beans. Then I warn them, and come out smelling like roses, because it makes them indebted to me, because I'm the reason why they're alive, because I gave them the heads up and I was right. So I was like, damn, that's devilish. I mean, we already knew she was really good at what she does, but like I said, it's also so devilish. That's why I'm still harping back to it last episode. I do believe that guy that Charles had to kill when he was 14, where he got the name Chairleg from, I think that guy had to be hired by his mom. Because Mama's son she was looking off, and Charles was like, wait, why do you keep looking at me? She was looking in that direction. I'm like, did she see? It's like, the guy hadn't even pulled out a gun yet. Yeah, he might have been heading in that direction, but no one knew what was about to pop off. And it's just like, that look of like, oh, like, she looked so concerned afterwards. I'm like, oh, I'm so sad that my son had to do that. But it's also like, maybe she felt bad because she's like, I put you in that situation. I was hoping maybe he'd kill your dad, that'd be fine, and maybe I'd kind of take the reins. We already know last episode, she made it clear too, she wanted to run things a certain way, but Big Son was like, no, I'm going to do, like, he leaned into the violence, where she was all about unity, which ends up being the massive platforms they kind of run on. Like, it was never, jumping ahead a little bit, but, we'll rewind back to it, but Big Son was never going to win, because he was all about forging alliances and stuff like that through power and yada, 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 so on and so forth, where she was all about alliances. She's always been about that, so it kind of makes sense in the long run. But either way, it's just like I said, the evil mastermind that she is and how manipulative and controlling she can be makes me, like I said, go back to that moment and think, I think she hired that dude to kill her husband. I think, could be mistaken, but we'll have to wait to see if that ends up being a revelation. But I mean, and now she's making it clear that it's like, oh, like what we need to do is get a new dragon head, because all the because they're all indebted to her, like all of the triads, all the other ghosts are showing up here in LA, and they haven't gotten together for like 41 years, and the last time they did that was to bring in the new dragon head, the boss of all bosses when it comes to the triad. But the last one died like 20 years ago, and there hasn't been one since, because their dad, Papa's son, was never going to let anyone else have that position except for him, but he was never going to get the position himself. So if I can't have it, no one can. So they kind of been at a standstill, and Mama's son is using this as an opportunity, like, I'm going to be the one to take the reins. And this, where we start getting into that point I brought up last episode, when Mama's son made her point clear, and then we found out that Papa's son was awake to hear all that, is the fact is that it's going to be a division between the kids, because they each have their own loyalty and will do any and everything for their respective parents. Charles would do anything for his dad, just like Bruce would do anything for their mom. So, but she needs Charles' support, and Charles gives it. So you're like, okay, interesting, okay. And then we have the development of not only are Charles' boys here, was it the Wang brothers, which they're, if I'm not mistaken, they're named after their nicknames or whatever, or just maybe their names in general were NSYNC members, right? Like one's Justin, one was like, wasn't it JC? Like it was like, yeah, they were like not Backstreet, but NSYNC names, I believe. But either way, you have that, which I immediately recognized one of them later on. I was like, wait, is that one of the Satoru brothers? And it is. It's Yoshi. I was like, oh, because I didn't know if it was Yoshi, because I don't know Yoshi. I want to say, because I know he has a twin brother, but I want to say his twin brother's name's Peter, but I could be mistaken. But I don't remember what his twin brother's name. I remember Yoshi's name, because I've never met or never heard too many Yoshis. So I was like, oh, like his name stood out to me, but so I can't remember his twin brother's name. I know one of them, it might have been his brother, maybe it was Yoshi. I know one of them was a blue Power Ranger at one point in time. This has been a couple years back, but yeah, I don't remember. So I knew it was one of the brothers, but it ended up being Yoshi. But yeah, they're here, and it's like, oh, why are you here? And they're here because Papa's son is here. Oh, he's here because Zing has been his inside gal, like telling him everything. And you're like, interesting. Which now begs the question, we never get this answer. Does that mean Blood Boots was in the know, or was even Blood Boots not even aware? Like, was that something like Zing had to? Because he specifically said Zing, she was not to tell anybody. So I'd assume, like, because you think maybe Blood Boots would be a moot point now that he's dead. But the fact is that Papa's son doesn't even bring that up, means even he wasn't in the know. So, like, Zing kept this big secret even from him, which, kind of stings a little bit, especially now that he's gone. She probably feels bad that, like, not everything was out in the open, but she has her loyalties, and so, yeah, he knows about everything. It turns out he was actually fine. Like, he's been faking it for a while, which makes a lot of sense when he explains it, because it's like, right, your enemies think you're weak, you get to see what they think, because he's like, after a few days, I was fine, the bullet went through and through, but I was playing possum, and so that's why when she showed up, he woke up immediately. It wasn't just timing, like, no, he was fine the entire time, he was just playing the role. Like, I guess his secondhand guy's the only one who knew, well, no, because Zing also knew, which is also why, like, Charles was like, wait, you knew he was fine the entire time and you didn't say anything? She was ordered not to. So they respect the hierarchy, because even Charles falls in line because of that. So now their father gets to meet Bruce, and he's playing it up and like, oh, my beautiful wife, yada, yada, yada. Even though he knows for a fact she's scheming behind his back, and she knows she's kind of like in a shitty situation, because once again, you plan, God laughs type of situation. I've used that, might even been in reference to this show, maybe it was something else. I think it was Echo I was referencing, but when I used that analogy and stuff. But yeah, she is very good at planning for stuff, but even she was severely blindsided by him being like totally okay, because she confirmed it with the like poking his finger. But once again, he was good at playing possum. He didn't flinch. He made sure his heartbeat stayed the same, so she wouldn't even recognize that he was already conscious. So he's been so for a while. But yeah, it shows up, wants to give Bruce a new car. I'm also skipping over him blowing up at TK. To be fair, TK wants this. He wants to prove himself, just like Bruce wants to prove himself not to be a loser, but he wants to do it in a normal sense. TK wants to do it in a sense of, hey, I want to be that guy. I want to be better than my brother. I want to be one of the G's. And then it turns out Bruce rips into him, but you can tell from the very beginning. Even Charles and their mom kind of picks up on, oh, you're saying all this stuff because at least TK will be the one person who walks away from this alive, because he already knows the boxers are gunning for them, and he kind of put them in a position to gun for all of them. Granted, it backfired because his mom had already already laid the trap well in advance. But yeah, TK walks away because it's because put a word in with your family because I'm kind of like your brother. You're kind of like a brother to me. So, but yeah, Bruce just doesn't want, from what we can see, outside of TK, he doesn't really have many friends, at least not that we've really seen. So it's, this is a guy that's like a brother to you. This is your best friend. Of course, you're not going to want him dead. You want to keep him alive, and so he doesn't suffer under all of this. So. But, once again, the little back and forth between everybody, where it turns out that, Papa's son's response to Mama's son wanting to run for Dragonhead is like, oh, no, it won't be me. It'll be Charles. He's been being prepared for this his entire life because Big Son knows, I might not be able to be the Dragonhead, but the next best thing would be my son. I basically raised him and prodded him up to be me. Pop, he's meant to be Da Son 2.0. So it is a situation of, and he also knows, I'll whisper in his ears, and obviously it will give the Jade Dragons the upper hand because Charles won't be looking at things from an objective standpoint. He'll come from a biased standpoint, even though he's supposed to be objective in that situation. He's going to his father's going to be there whispering in his ears. It's right, you're going to be more the figurehead. I'm really going to be the one running the show. So that's why his way of getting around it. Because it was, if I can't be in that position, people will respect Charles because he has a big enough name and reputation as chair-like son. But then, it's also to screw Mama's son out of it, just a middle finger, not only to take it away from you because you want it so badly, that's an extra thing, but also putting our son who's loyal to me. Yes, he has affection for you, but he's been loyal to me for all the years that you've been going. So those years of he's been around his mom for sure a couple of days, but it doesn't take away from the loyalty and the hierarchy that is all of this, and wanting to, do everything to, he would never question his father because he loved his father, and, always looking for his love and attention and stuff like that, and his praise. And then he also made it clear, I also want Bruce to come to Taipei with us, but his mom's like, no, you don't get both of them. And it's we're kind of in that selfish choice situation again, because it's right, this time you took Bruce with you and now he's trying to take Bruce, and you're no, you get Charles again, I will take Bruce. And it's just and like I said, they're torn where Charles won't say anything against his father, but Bruce just kind of capitulates to whatever his mom says of because she's right, he's trying to talk to her saying well, Charles, is this what you really want? But it's trying to find a way out of this, but he can't, especially because he knows the boxers are coming after, and the whole point was to protect his brother and protect his mom. And once again, he has his dad's fine, but he doesn't know his dad. He was super young when they moved away, so he has no special connection to his father, so he doesn't feel as loyal to him like Charles does. The loyalty that he has for his mom, how much he loves his mom, cares for his mom, is exactly how Charles feels about their dad. So like I said, it's such a complicated division in that family. So, and sadly, we had things kind of escalate and blow up because because Bruce is being ridiculed by Charles' friends, and Charles doesn't stick up for him. Charles acts kind of like this jerkish meathead. Yes, he was kind of like the stoic douchebag in the beginning, but he's softened up because Bruce has seen that softer side of I see you for who you really are, not who you pretend to be around these people, because, you can't really be soft around them. It's all about, it's that, toxic masculinity, but it's also it's not even just that. It's also you're in a gang, in a triad. Weakness will get you killed. You have to show, it always has to be a show of strength. especially in his case because his name precedes them. He has a reputation, especially not only as chair-like son, but Da's son's Otis. It's like that. There's a lot to that name that he has to adhere to and live up to that reputation and that name. So he kind of lets them like walk all over Bruce, and Bruce tries to stand up for himself, but one of the dudes like punks him out, and he just kind of goes along with it. And it's just like, for Bruce, it's like, I don't like who you are because you're acting like a total like those guys suck. Is everyone in Taiwan like that too? Like, you know, back in Taipei, like, are they going to be like that too? Like, I don't like who you are around them. And he just kind of walks away. So he tries to, his mom, like Charles and his mom have this conversation of, you can't stand up to him. You can't beat him. He always wins. And Bruce is saying, like, right, it doesn't have to be that way. We can walk away. We don't need the cars, all this power and money. We could just live our lives. But for Charles, it's not about what you want. Once again, you're coming at this from this American point of view. Once again, it's like, oh, doing what you want, as Blood Boots said. We have a word for that in Taipei, or, you know, in Taiwan. It's American. It's like, yeah, that's not how this whole thing works. It's not about what you want. It's about putting the family first. It's about protecting the family. And it's like, that gets a little like, bleh, considering it's like, well, your mom's not 100%. Maybe in her own way, it's like, oh, I'm doing what's best for the family. And she kind of puts it later on. She's kind of doing something best for all the triads in general. But it's also like, she's also doing this because of family, because she wants to spite her husband because of what happened to her sister, which he went full dick bad. I mean, to be fair, in his mind, is like, well, you already went behind my back, but he jammed that knife in and he twisted it where he was like, oh, I would have never abandoned my family, and, you know, instead, you know, letting my sister get sick and dying and not being there for her. He's like, you fucking piece of shit, don't do that, because you should have told her what was going down, but you didn't. Once again, he didn't expressly say this, but my points last episode was because if she came back, that would have destroyed the leverage he had as her being the Rolodex. She's supposed to be so out of reach and somewhere that no one knows where she is. That's how she's his most powerful piece on the board. And that's all nullified if she's in Taipei. And yeah, she could be low key and everything, but it's such a big thing as like her sister being dead could draw her back, and everyone would know that. So even Bruce's mom, like, just kind of laying it out, like, right, we are not the same. She's like, I'm kind of built for this life, you're not. Because he's like, oh, well, it sucks, but at least we'll go back to our normal lives. Even though she's the one that kept promising, normal life, normal life, normal life. And it's like, once again, how much of that was her, I've said that in earlier episodes, how much of that is her convincing Bruce, and how much of that is just her trying to convince herself? Does she want a normal life? Did she ever want one? Because it seems like becoming a Dragonhead seemed to only be a plan after she found out about what her husband did, not telling her about her sister. But to be fair, she had already set up the Bruce stuff from the beginning, so I guess that was always going to be like a backhand thing of like, well, in the thing of it's a contingency, I'll play if I need to. It was already going to be in play regardless, but now she shifted her motives to, oh, I'm using all this to better my position as Dragonhead. I don't think that's where she was initially going with that, but that leverage, I don't know what she was going to initially use it for. I guess to bolster the family power even more. But now I'm like, nah, I guess she was like, nah, fuck that. I'm not going to do stuff to help him grow in more power and get him even more powerful. I'm going to use that for myself. I'm the one that knows how to run this game. I'm the one handling the game. I'm the reason why he's even where he is. Yes, he's got the violence and all that, yada yada, but my brains, my understanding the board, me seeing the bigger picture got you this far. Without me, you are nothing. You're just that, as the title of the last episode and what she had said to him last episode, just that country boy, which even he's like, oh, not too shabby for a country boy. So it's like, yeah, she can't win. Like, he's like, you might be 2 steps ahead of everyone else, but I will always be 1 step ahead of you. So it's like, damn. And like I said, him pissing and looking around the corner, it's like he kept twisting the knife. It's like, shows you what kind of a piece of shit he is. Like, once again, that's like there is no love in that relationship. It's just kind of like we have 2 sons together. Like I said last episode, maybe at one point she did love him, but she got to spend more time with him, and it just was never love. It's just a relationship. You stay together with him purely because of the dynamic you were in with the triad and all that, but also because you had 2 children together, so it complicates things. Once again, I don't know where Taiwan stands when it comes to divorce. Normal divorce is one thing versus divorce in a triad. I'm sure that's a whole other complicated ballpark. So So Bruce felt like he kind of had nothing else to do, so he turned to Grace. It's like, right, my mom's not going to be there anyway, but like, I'm not the manipulative type. I'm not going to betray anyone. That was my mom. She had set this all up. I'm giving you the triads because I just want my normal life back. My mom might not be there. My brother, he can fend for himself. And it's like, are you sure? And it's like, yes. Well, he doesn't even say yes. He's like, am I sure? I don't know. Charles can fend for himself, but at least he has a better chance of surviving all of this if, I put him in a situation where he has a fighting chance because he's very good at getting out of these terrible situations. But it's better than him continuing down this route and just ending up dead regardless. So this is me giving him his best shot. And this is like the last thing I could do for my brother. And it's just, he wants to warn him, but he can't. And it's just, it's in a very tough spot. And all the while this is happening, like Mama's son had something going up. The moment she's like, oh, I'm gonna go get my hair done. And later on when they're like getting food fixed, I'm like, we're not gonna find out the food's poison, because that's gonna suck, because cooking's important to your son, so you don't want to take the chance that like Charles might have eaten some of the food. So I was like, would you really go that far? Because I was not lying to you, like, because if anyone's going to get sick, most likely it's going to be Charles, because I think he was trying the food first before anyone else ate, potentially. But I was like, there's no way she actually went to go get her hair done. We found out she actually did, but she was also setting up other stuff. We'll get to that soon enough. But she's always working, always coming up with contingencies. Even with her back against the corner, that's when she's the most deadly. That's when you never corner a wild animal, because that's when they're most desperate and dangerous. So, and someone as smart as her and as crafty and sneaky and devilishly mastermindish as she is, you always have to be weary, because the problem is that their Papa's son like underestimated her, and he's always underestimated her and kind of overestimated himself in a lot of ways. Grace, in the long run, ends up agreeing to the plan, and this would be that time to wipe out everyone. And all the while this is happening, Alexis is gathering every three-lettered agency you can think of to bring them into the fold, because she kind of got it from her boss early on, because it's like, you're leaving Charles in the play, you're actually a lot closer than you admitted. But then she's like, I know, like, right, connecting with Interpol and looking at the names coming in, I know these are some heavy hitters in the triad community, like, bosses coming in for something. I know this 8's a lucky number in Chinese, so I know that they are going to be, this place and time and date, it's all on purpose. She knew something was going down, she just didn't know the specifics of what it is. And just as time's ticking down and all the other agents there are looking at her like, oh, you fucked this up, because once this goes wrong, her boss made it clear, everyone else made it clear that this was going to fall on her, this shitstorm was going to fall on her if it goes wrong. And I'm like, jeez, I hope for her sake it doesn't go wrong. But of course it does, because it's like, right, we're going to track Charles' phone. Problem is, he grabbed the wrong jacket, because obviously him and Bruce are getting fitted, so I don't know if he grabbed Bruce's jacket instead. I would assume so, because maybe he mistakenly put it, like maybe he like reached in there, put the phone in one pocket and just assumed it was his jacket, because him and his brother have the same jacket. He wasn't paying attention, he just grabbed his jacket, not realizing he'd already put the phone in the wrong jacket. Or maybe he did grab Bruce's jacket from again, whatever the case may be, didn't have his phone. So I'm like, well, maybe if Bruce shows up to the meeting, then it could work out if he takes the jacket, which he does, because he was watching a program and it was about, oh, like, things have been better, it's gonna be sad without him around. And because Bruce has enjoyed this time he's had with his brother, and he's always loved his brother, but like, they became such strangers over like such a long period of time, and they rekindled a lot of that, not only these past few days over the course of these few episodes, but also just in the last episode alone, they got so much closer. So when it was all said and done, Bruce calls in June and asks for her help, and it's like, well, she's not too upset about the grace of it all, because it's like, well, I get to help out your family, and I also get to get my revenge. So I get to get my get back against your girlfriend. But also, she's like, you guys are kind of the only family I have left. Which I was like, oh, that's really sweet. I mean, she does spend enough time with them and helping them out and do stuff. So that's actually kind of sweet. In a sense, Bruce him and Charles kind of got a sister, which makes me go like, I hope everything works out. I hope June ends up surviving everything that goes down when it's all said and done. But we'll see. I mean, post this episode, because obviously we know she's still alive in this episode, but I'm curious to see what the future holds in general. But So they're gonna go to the meeting, and of course TK has to get involved because it's like, right, I'm gonna die one way or another, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be kind of, I'm fated to die in some shape or form. I don't eat well, I text while I drive or something like that. So it's like I'm gonna die one way or another, but let me kind of see this through. And it's like, well, okay. It's like, oh, I get to come. It's like, yeah, I can't freaking go anywhere over your fat ass blocking the play. And it's like, okay, so he gets to sit on Jun's lap as they go. So that's all happening. Because they're on their way, it finally looks like, hey, Charles is finally moving, so now we're all going. I was kind of worried. I was worried something would go wrong, but I'm like, no. Bruce knows where he's going, so obviously the cops are going to be in the right place, but it felt like that type of thing where people would end up in the wrong places. Like, there's no way Charles would go to the wrong address. I mean, there's no way Bruce would go to the wrong address and then in turn make the cops go to the wrong address. I was like, there's no way, so I'm just surprised there wasn't as much, like, backup or, like, no one watching the ground. Because I guess it's like, right, it's such a secret meeting, no one knows. No one's expecting the cops to roll through, so I guess, like, of course you're going to be blindsided when they show up. But, I mean, there's just, once again, it's just, I was so nervous because I'm like, okay, everything's colliding in this moment. All the storylines are colliding in this moment. So I'm like, what's going to happen? Where's this all going to go? How's this going to play out? Because I'm just nervous because I'm anxious. Like, I have no idea how this is going to go. So Papa's son is doing his thing, hyping up Charles. But then, like, Mama's son shows up, and it turns out she's got Frank Ma's support. He set that in motion of, like, she already got to him ahead of time because she was already, like, he walked in on her trying to garner support from the others, but it seemed like the only one that she was able to garner full support from was Frank. That might just go back to not even the most recent situation, but it might also be like she's always been good with Frank. I mean, to be fair, she did, like, already kind of check off with everyone well, that was probably her already, like, when she went to Taipei last episode, that was already her warning everybody, but maybe she really left impression on Frank, or maybe it was, like, after, like, she said, oh, I'm gonna go get my hair done. Maybe that's really when she laid it on thick for Frank. So, whatever the case may be, he pulls some strings to basically put her in a position where she does have the right to speak at that place, and it's like, right, my son is a good soldier, but he's always going to be someone that, that will always be kind of his loyalty in that position. He's always going to be kind of almost being like, hey, like, he's always going to be loyal to his father. And if you don't want his father in this position, you're going to get that again if you just put him in that position, because you're just getting son Jr. in that regard. And it's like, right, that guy who was pretending to be in a coma while you guys were attacked, but who came through in the end to help you throughout that? Me. So it made him look worse and continue to bolster her. But we don't even know where the votes would have lied. Probably would have all gone towards Mama's son. We'll never know, because because it was Bruce interrupted because the bomb that was stuck to the cake, he threw it down to I think laundry chute. Cops just happened to open that door and end up getting, like, 3 of them catch that bomb to the face. I was like, wow, that's super unlucky. But then the cops strolled through, guns pointed, and it turns to a full-on blown showdown because the boxers take that opportunity. Grace took charge in that moment and turns into a slaughter. The cops are like, nah, some of us are getting jacked up. Let's leave and let them shoot it out, and we'll deal with the aftermath. Yo, like, the Wayne brothers, they're actually really dope, and just, like, I love, like, the little slow-mo we got for them, especially one of them who, like, took that little stool and, like, kicked it and they were grabbing it. And I love the last one, it's Yoshi's character being like, oh, this is my moment, from the movie Gymkata. So he ends up doing the same spinning. He doesn't do it as long, but he does it. He's like, oh, I did it, and then immediately I was like, oh, you're about to get shot. No, someone walks up and stabs him in the back. So you'd assume he's dead. We don't know about the others. He's definitely the one we saw on screen get stabbed. Doesn't mean he's necessarily dead, because they did say later on there's a lot of dead, but there's also quite a bit that are wounded. So some people are still alive. So there's a good chance all of the Wangs are still alive. Maybe he's the one that's the most, like, severely injured, because they're, like, friends, but they're not related at all. They're known as the Wang brothers, but they're not actually related at all. So Bruce told Zing, like, oh, this is the guy that killed blood boots, and she just dodged one dude, smashed another dude in the face with a bottle to the point he did a whole backflip because of it. And she was like shaking that dude up with the dude that killed blood boots with that broken bottle, and just like finally like slit his throat, and just like how slow motion it was, how badass it was. I was like, wow, she got her get back. And I'm sure Bruce kind of felt like not too bad about it, you know. I mean, once again, all this death and destruction you're taking in stride. I mean, the only problem you have an issue with when it comes to death is like, well, when it's someone you know, so you had to see blood boots, and that was kind of rough. But hey, you're kind of okay with Zing getting her revenge. It also protected your mom because Home Dude was gunning for your mom. So Bruce and her get out of there. There was that badass moment that Charles had where he's shooting, and then like he holds the one dude down as he's like reloading the gun, and then just pops him in the head, passes the gun to his dad, picks up another gun, and they manage to escape. Then you have June and Grace duking it out, which I love that whole sequence, you know? Which is so interesting because it's like Grace is the one that said that line to June last episode, "Oh, I understand." So it's like, yeah, it only makes sense that it comes down to this, that she finally gets her revenge. So they're duking it out, and I was like, oh, this probably isn't going to end well. Especially when she ended up hooking her with one of the hooks that the chickens was on. I was like, are you about to just rip her face? I was like, is Grace going to walk away from this but with a badass scar or something? It's like, nah, June killed her. Because she's like, oh yeah, like I did it. The triads are dead. It's already too late. But June's like, well, good for you. You're dead. Because it's like, for her, it's like, I'm not doing this for the triads. I'm doing this for me. That's the only reason why I'm here. I'm here to back up the family I've come, the pseudo family I've kind of made along the way. But it's more so, I'm here for me. I want my revenge. So Bruce doesn't have to see Grace dead. He already knew what it was, because he already knew that June was kind of all about that. And, you know, it wasn't like the relationship was never going to be copacetic. It was never going to be good. I should also talk about that. I completely didn't talk about that in the beginning. I was actually surprised that Bruce actually gave her the entire list. I thought that was going to be like a show up front, but I'm like, what good would that do you? I mean, it could buy you some time, sure, but no, he sold them because, hey, I thought I was doing what was best for my family. So they managed to get away, specifically Bruce and Mama's son, because TK tackled a cop. So he's going to get arrested, but he's going to bolster his own reputation. He's going to feel like the big man of like, hey, I helped my best friend / bro escape with his mom, and I add a little more reputation to myself because I'm one of the people that was at this massacre and I survived. I took down a cop. He's going to, like, you know, he's going to exaggerate that, a la, like, he's going to do his best Usopp impression and kind of lie his ass off to be tougher than he seems. So there's going to be that. Charles and their dad ends up in a room full of boxers, and in that moment Charles looks to the chair and just kind of smiles, and when we cut back to it, everyone's dead. Charles went buck wild and killed everyone. Alexis, when she does show up on the scene, it's like, yeah, it's great, this is going to work out for her, but she does kind of feel bad. She knew what time it was, but she was probably hoping, like, right, the cops would step in, and she wasn't expecting there to be the third party there. The guns were pointing at each other, and shit would have been able to calm down. Probably would have still been an issue, but the boxers really ignited that powder keg that was already ready to blow the moment the cops showed up. Because maybe the triad would have still went to, like, shooting regardless, but regardless of it, we'll never know because the boxers popped it all off. So. But yeah, she wasn't expecting the bloodbath, like, because now it made it like, oh, Charles is here and maybe he didn't survive. Even Mark being like, oh, maybe he didn't survive, and she's kind of got a little bit of guilt because she's the one that pushed for this, and look at all this death and destruction. Once again, it wasn't even really the cops, it was the boxers and, the triads duking it out, but it's still a thing of, it sucks. It kind of makes her feel a certain way. So she's probably hopeful that he's still alive, but it's still just that nervousness of, I don't know. Because even if she calls his phone, Bruce is the one that's going to have it, not him. So we'll see how that plays out. And then finally we get the ending where, why were the cops there? Why were the boxers there? And Charles pieces it together. Well, he wasn't planning on the cop situation. That's kind of on you. Because it's like, well, there's only one person that's interacting with the cops. He still doesn't know about the boxers of it all. But he could still be like, all of that's on Bruce. But it's like, part of it's on Bruce, part of it's on you, because the Alexis of it all, that's kind of your fuck up in all of this. Bruce had his own fuck up with all of this with the Grace and the boxers of it all. because the organization is bigger than her. Like, she isn't just the head honcho, because they are kind of like the triads. They're like their own individual cells, which they were planning on expanding to other countries. But like, I don't think she was like the full head honcho. I think she was head honcho for the operations here in Los Angeles. But like, I don't know, maybe she was like the head honcho, but it seems like it's like a Hydra thing, much like the triads, where you have to cut off all the heads, and there's still boxers out there. I doubt they're all taken care of in this swift moment. There's still probably remnants of them. We'll see. But yeah, because of all of this, because of hearing that from Charles, his father's immediate thought is, oh, your mother set this all up. She tried to betray me. So he thinks like if Bruce did anything, or if Bruce was trying to warn you, it's simply because he knew what your mom was planning, even though she has had her machinations in it. Not unless she really saw all of this coming. Even she got blindsided by this stuff. So now it's like, right, instead of killing her, he's like, I want her to be dealing with unbearable loss and pain. So you need to kill what she cares about most in this world. So that's the irony, that the boxers were trying to use Bruce against her mom, against their mom, and now their dad's using that. It's like, right, you have to kill your own brother, which Charles definitely not going to go through with it, but you know, he's torn between like, right, like what kind of father would ask, you know, his son to kill his other son, because he has no special attachment to Bruce, because Bruce is useless to him, because especially in his eyes, it's like, you're not the trained person I trained up and had ready and put through all of this. Like, that was me who put you through all that to make you who you are. Your mom, like, Bruce is your mom, so he's just as much an enemy. And so I don't want her dead. I want her to live and have to live with that unbearable loss. I want her to pay for everything, for dismantling and disrupting everything. So it is a lot. This was a lot of interesting setup. It's going to be crazy and wild to see how this ultimately comes to an end with the season finale. How they wrap this up and where this all ends, we'll ultimately have to wait to see, but I'm excited to see what happens next. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.